Why do some research and development labs produce more innovations than others? I want to answer that today, and it turns out that there is an easy answer, and then there's a much more complicated answer. So, for those of you who don't know who I am Professor Dave Maslach. I created this whole reciprocity project to give back as much as I possibly can. So the easy answer is that it's management issues and politics that often make it very difficult to create innovations. That's a very, very simple answer because if you start breaking it down, you're going to start to realize that there is a lot that's going on there. So one of the things that we do know is that there is a flywheel or accumulation effect that happens for many different reasons, right? So what that means is that the more that you start producing of innovations, the more likely that you're going to produce more innovations in the future. Now that might last a decade, that might last several decades, but it lasts for a certain amount of time. And then eventually, often it sort of peters out. So what is happening there? Well, often what happens is that there is a star individual that attracts people, or maybe it's several individuals that attract people for whatever reason. Why they're a star? That's a challenging question. There's lots of research around that. But, essentially they probably got lucky breaks. Very likely they got lucky breaks. Maybe they were given extra resources, or maybe they have maybe they are really, really sharp or perceptive. But there's some reason why they're a star, but that attracts people to that particular place, and it gets people really excited to be around them. And so people want to go there. And now this is the challenging part, though, is that even though you actually want to go there, somebody has to manage this group or allow people to grow. And if you've watched any of my videos, you'll realize that it's extraordinarily difficult to innovate or to do research and development on a regular basis. I am very open about the process, and there's a lot of down moments that you experience because what's happening is that you are creating something and there is an action that you perform, and it takes a lot of actions, a lot of grinding out, and then you wait for an extraordinarily long time to actually get that particular reward. It might be, it might be 5, 10, 20 years by the time that something actually works out for you. And the thing is that sometimes you put in that effort and nothing happens for individuals, for people. And it just takes a whole lot of time. And so the managing this sort of process where often people are that they're emotionally aroused, I guess, is the saying. That term sounds kind of funny, but the idea is that there's often a lot of heightened emotions, heightened feelings, and you have to manage that process, which is not all that easy. Because what you have is that people are extraordinarily emotional, but then the manager or the person that's involved has to manage this process because they have a limited amount of resources typically. So it requires that person that is maybe attractive to everybody else to probably be a little bit more forgiving or allow a lot of generosity often for people to do things and give a lot of leeway to do things when in of itself it's very difficult to recoup any of those particular gains. So you have this management process, or you have this problem where things take an extraordinarily long time, and it's very much an emotional process because of the ups and downs that you go through. And there's only so many resources that go around. And now there's one other thing that's really, really incredibly important. People are people. And when people are people, they're going to try to strategically game things, and they're going to try to get ahead. There's all sorts of people out there, and a lot of people, even though some may be very, very generous, there's other people that are going to do things that are not so, let me delicately put this, they're not, it's not a pleasant look on somebody, right? And so there's all these kind of things where people try to get ahead or they try to be, cutthroat. It's a very, very emotional process. And on top of it, you have to manage this process so that it takes a long, long time to start building this flywheel. And it takes an awful lot of time. And then on top of it, there's a layer is that there are often other people at different layers of an organization, right? Whether it being at a university, a research and development lab, or corporate lab that often look a different way, or they have different opinions on how things should work out. And so they manage in a different way. And sometimes people are a lot more cutthroat. Sometimes people are less forgiving. And with this sort of challenges that you face, is a really, really, really delicate balance. So despite the fact that there might be some people that are well-intentioned to create something that will last a long time, because of this weird, delicate balance all of the time, often innovation doesn't happen the way that it should. And so what happens is that the organizations that do a good job, and it's very difficult to do a good job, and it's usually very, very fleeting, they do a good job of this because of a certain number of different people that have, maybe it's like-minded views, or maybe they're confrontational views, but it sort of works out where people kind of work together and it sort of balances out. But because of this, then that can grow and you can actually develop something that was actually very difficult to develop. And once you get those people together that are growing, you have to let it grow. And you have to often take a step back. It might take extra resources at the beginning to get this thing growing. And it might take a lot of hand holding, but then you have to take a step back and let it grow naturally. And as people, as managers, that's difficult to do. It's like letting your kids grow without you. It's often extraordinarily difficult. If anybody is a parent, you'll realize that letting go is one of the hardest things to do, and letting your kids actually grow by themselves. So, even though it's possible for many organizations to create breakthrough innovations and capitalize on those breakthrough innovations, you have to realize it's very much a management problem, or very much a problem where there's people involved, not managers as like you're thinking of managers, but that there's people involved, and people do people things. And it's very difficult to actually get anything done when people are doing people things. So despite the fact that it might seem like it's obvious and easy to create breakthrough innovations, it requires a lot of people at various different stages to agree upon something, to kind of look in the same direction or be confrontational in the same direction. And that's just genuinely very difficult to actually do for any long period of time. So that's why a lot of labs, whether it being at a university or a corporate lab, actually they don't create a lot of breakthrough innovations, even though that they may have the possibility to do so, and even when they have all of the financial resources to be able to do so. There's a lot involved. It is challenging. And there's lots of emotions that are involved and they're tied to it. And I wish that there was an easy way where you can numerically calculate how to actually get there, but it's often not the case. And it requires people to be like-minded, requires people to be genuinely helpful to actually make these things work. All right. Take care and have a wonderful day. Bye.